Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Katie, good to see you. It's you and I today. So everyone else is bailed. Chris is on vacation. Lance claims he has work to do at his new job. Good for him. I'm glad. We have a lot to go over. We have a lot to go over there. The certificates, please sure and download those. And let's get to the first poll question. Katie wrote an article this morning about continuing with what the theme is on the Inspector General. It's interesting, Katie, the incidence of PPP2 fraud. I haven't seen any. Have you?
It is much lower this time around, at least so far. Obviously, we're going to still see the new cases rolling in slowly. It is only a few months after that started, but it does seem as though the SBA's new precautions have kind of adjusted that and made it a little less prevalent. So hopefully that will prevent that.
Well, I'll go one step further. I think it's made it a lot less prevalent. So good for the lending community and good for SBA. We've learned from our mistakes. Hey, Joseph, throw those numbers back up real quick. So the poll question is, what do you do if you have a borrower indicted for fraud? 69% of you said call the OIG. Nobody said email Treasury. That is correct. We're not, Treasury could care less. Email SBA, 23%. That is the right answer. You're going to remember these are right now, as of June 1st, 2021. These are considered 7A loans, so they are in servicing. So you need to send an email to your Fresno Servicing Center or the Little Rock Center and say, hey, this is what I got. We're putting you on, just bringing you into the loop. I would go one, and that is the official policy. I'd go one step further and just reach out to your local district office and say, hey, we have the situation. Is there anything else we need to do? Because the district council does get involved from time to time. So that is it. Katie, what's going on? You did some research over the weekend, and where are we on getting additional guidance from SBA?
Yeah, so the SBA looks like they're going to be releasing some new guidance here shortly. We don't have any specific dates yet or anything like that, but it does appear as though they're working on some guarantee guidance for when lenders need the agency to purchase loans back for that guarantee. There's not a lot of current guidance on that, and I know that was a pain point for a lot of lenders. They were concerned about it. So hopefully that guidance will come out very shortly. I know the SBA officials have notified ICBA and several others that this is coming soon, but we don't know how soon. Probably within the next week or two, I would assume.
ICBA is the trade organization representing community bankers, independent community bankers of America. And the quote was that SBA officials had talked to ICBA, and this is what they said, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so obviously it's not it's not a shock that they're working on it. Were they more specific on, other than forgiveness guidance, were they more specific on what they want to come out with in regulations for the lenders?
Yeah, so as far as forgiveness goes, they're looking to update that process a little bit. The SBA administrator even hinted at it last week in a meeting with the House that she is trying to work with the agency to streamline that a little bit. I don't believe they have any exact details released yet. However, they do want this to eventually be a process that can take place within 30 days, have that forgiveness response out to the lenders and out to the borrower. So it's hopefully going to speed that up. I don't know how they're doing that, but that would be absolutely wonderful, especially since we've got some of those loans that are over $1 million that have been waiting for several months now for response on those. So that would be great to hear those getting processed faster.
Yeah, I agree. That's every loan is significant for the borrowers, but those are starting to talk about huge numbers for the lender, for the borrower, and for the government. So that is good news. And I'd like that the word all is in there, that they understand that we got to get this done. Good stuff, Katie. Let's see, what did you write about today and why do we care about this story? Why do we care about the Inspector General and the hotline complaints? I mean, first of all, tell us what's happening and why is it important to us?
Yeah, so this most recent OIG report, the OIG releases congressional reports twice a year. So this would be their what they call a spring one, even though it's certainly starting to feel like summer now. And this spring report is looking at pretty much all of the cases of fraud or potential risks since the beginning of COVID, really, and the beginning of PPP and things like that, but especially within the past 6 months. And of course, this one's not quite going to be as up to date as the next one's probably going to be, including the PPP 2.0 loans, the ones that came out after the beginning of the year. This one's primarily looking at everything from fall to early winter time period. But looking at those, we are seeing a lot of complaints. They were saying 150 hotline complaints of potential fraud, and that is significantly higher than previous years. Looking at 2019, they only had 742 complaints for the entire year. So that it definitely is an increase. However, based on these complaints and based on what the feedback they're getting, they have been implementing a lot more things to try to fix and prevent fraud in the system. And that does mean that lenders might see some changes to how these loans are handled and things like that. We've already seen that at the beginning of this year. The OIG specifically, I've got the report here, they've done 12 reports with 81 recommendations, and the SBA generally approved of those recommendations and has been implementing a lot of those. That's resulted in 119 indictments and 32 convictions, with over $85 million currently recovered. So that's good news. Excellent. They are definitely, and I expect they are saying they've linked several more $1 million to this. So hopefully they're able to recover that as well. But it is a process, and we are going to be seeing this for a long time, them trying to handle the fraud and things like that. But it does seem like it is getting better. And of course, we are going to see some updates to how these loans are handled and processed soon, based on what they're hearing and how they're handling this.
Very good. Yeah, I think I'm very interested to see those second draw 2.0 numbers in terms of what the fraud looks like. I do know that it was in the budget when Congress allocated, or in the administration allocated all these funds, that they did also allocate additional funds for tracking. I personally don't have an issue with this. I'm all for it. I think the more that we have less headlines about PPP fraud, is better for the industry. Again, the percentages are minor, but the dollar amounts are huge. That's the problem that we face as an industry. So very good. Good job, Katie. All right. Tomorrow we are ready to do our restaurant loan. We've got everything done. And our webinar, our annual finance webinar, and I said, how much equity are you acquiring for an SBA restaurant loan? And Katie, I did this on purpose. I did not specify whether it was for real estate acquisition or just a general acquisition or even a startup. I just said, what are you looking for? 20% is the majority number. 45% of you, about half of you say 20. The other half say 25%. Only 14% want a third. And 50% we threw in there, we threw that in there, and obviously no one's adhering to that. So we didn't go down to 10%. Maybe we should have done that. But I think this is a good indication of what your peers are doing in the 20 to 25% range. All I know, Katie, I don't know how, but Northwest Washington looks like, but a lot of the restaurants that went out of business in my area, they are now reopening. In fact, we went to one over the weekend, rebranded, reopening under new ownership.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing up here more restaurants, even if it's not the same exact brand or the same restaurant, you are seeing new ones take the old ones' places. So we're definitely seeing things open back up. And just something like to note is, yeah, we saw a lot of restaurants close over this last year, but we're seeing a lot open as well. And some of those were just going to naturally close anyway, and those are going to be included in those COVID numbers. So really, we didn't see nearly the drop that I probably would have imagined, and definitely seeing that new restaurants replace the old. So I don't think that's an industry that's going out of business completely. People are still going to need restaurants. No matter what. The industry is changing. I should say that it's definitely changing. I'm working on the guide that goes along with this webinar right now, and there are a lot of changes within the last year, but it's not an industry that's going away.
Yeah, I agree. And what's interesting is the restaurant that opened up, it was a second location of a successful restaurant about 30 miles from here. And because I walked in, it was fully staffed. I couldn't believe that. And what's interesting is going from 1 to 2 is a very difficult transition. It's an entirely different management model. Successful restaurant entrepreneurs, Lance loves to tell the stories that they drove by at 2 a.m. once and saw activity in the back door of his restaurant. And there were wine bottles and meat. Excuse me, I got a fly that's attacking me. That were walking out the back door with the assistance of some now ex-employees. So it's critical. Restaurants still remain number 1 on the NAICS code in terms of funding. That's why we ask about that. It is, as Katie said, Katie, you're right, it's changing, and as things start to open up, and hopefully there is any additional surges that we have are contained and not, we don't look at any more closures. That's positive. Interesting question. And this comes from Katie. The source on this is what, the National Restaurant Association? Or as I like to call them, the NRA?
I've seen several quotes, and they're all at the same level, but the National Restaurant Association, I believe that's where we got our most recent data.
Yeah, so the average income for an owner is, and we're talking average here, very good. Less than $50,000. Obviously, a lot make less than $50,000, but the average is actually $72,000, Katie.
Yeah, when I first heard that stat, I thought that sounded a little high, but it really depends on the restaurant brand, of course, and things like that. But I just, out of curiosity, we walked into a Chipotle the other day, and they're over that $75,000 for restaurant owners and managers. So that is something to be aware of when you're lending to these groups, is how much is normal for the owner. If you're seeing a lot more than normal or a lot less than normal, that's something to kind of question.
A friend of mine, her husband works for In-N-Out. He's now the head. It's a fascinating case study that the senior people are the ones that cook the burgers, and they do that. And he does very, very well. He's in line with the numbers that we post there. So there can be very good career paths for that. PPP funding is exhausted. Tell me about that.
It is. So last Friday I believe around 7 p.m., they closed down the portal. Funding is completely out. That means all those CDFIs, MDIs, CDCs, they were supposed to be able to go clear until yesterday if there was funding. That did run out a little bit early. Maybe it gave everybody a chance to actually have a vacation this weekend, but it is officially over. Now they're going to be shifting the focus to processing those forgiveness apps and things like that. So hopefully they are working right now on adjusting what is currently the portal and currently their website to focus almost entirely now on forgiveness.
Katie, when you say 7 o'clock, 7 p.m., what day was that?
Friday, Eastern.
That was last Friday. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And that follows up with a question. Anna says, we're a CDC that's allowed to submit PPP loan apps. They haven't received any new approvals since May 26th. So that's not too far. And are wondering if other lenders are seeing the same thing. Do you think that means the money has run out, the application is submitted, but still under review, won't get loan numbers? What this is telling us, Anna, is, all right, I'm going to officially But what they're telling us is that if you have it by 7:00 p.m. Eastern on Friday, it's in the queue, and you're eligible to get a loan number. We're not saying you are, but you're definitely eligible.
You need that loan number though. So if anything, I don't really know exactly when all the applications were coming in. I'm sure they had a little bit of a overlap there for when they started to run out. So I don't know if, as long as you get a loan number, you're good though. So SBA does have till the end of this month to process those. So be a little bit patient. I'm sure they're handling all that. But if you get a loan number, you're secure.
You say end of this month, June 30th, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, very good. Okay. And there's not, you can also follow up. I'd wait a couple days and let this settle down. If you don't have a loan number in a couple days, I'd follow up and say, hey, what's the story on those individual ones? Katie, you've done a great job on the guide. From your corner, from your niche, tell us what you did for this guide. This guide is included free to all attendees of the webinar. First question is, who's it geared for, the lender or the borrower?
So this is going to be a lender guide, and it's helping walk the lender through what's going on with restaurant lending right now. I know that's very complicated, and with all the changes that have gone on, and it's also walking you through what you need to talk to the borrower about as far as new changes. You might not be thinking about some of you're seeing the data, but you don't know exactly what that means on the owner's side, how they're seeing it, how they're adjusting. So it will open up a lot of questions that you might want to ask the borrower before you officially approve any of these loans. But it's a great guide. There's a lot of data in it, and it does explain how to look at that data. So it's a great guide. It's not super long, but it's a lot of information.
Yeah, it's for the SBA lending underwriter. That's who we're geared for. So you're absolutely right on that. We're also rolling out our new website, which is, I believe, restaurantfinancereport.com. We're going to roll that out officially tomorrow. And Katie, Coleman Report has embraced healthy options for lunch. Maybe not, but all I know is I'm getting hungry looking at it. That's only about 2,000 calories, so don't worry about it. Well, very good. Katie, good job. It's always good to see you. Glad you had a nice weekend. And keep your questions coming. We are following closely what's happening with the forgiveness updates. We're expecting that. And now that PPP has been, quote, exhausted, we do expect SBA to fully put their resources towards a number of projects that are working on. We always hear of servicing, definitely servicing and liquidation guides, updates are going to be very important for how to handle this, and SBA is on top of that. Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and supporting America's Main Street, one hamburger joint at a time.
Have a great day.